Welcome to Generating Gratitude, a look at personal growth in a grateful life. What follows is not professional advice or medical recommendation, but stories and perspectives about living with gratitude. Now, here is your host, Joe Volk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another blazing edition of Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. And again, we're very grateful to the friends here at Connoisseur Media that allow us to do this every week. And remember, we start out every show with you can't be hateful and you can't be grateful at the same time. And really, that's a choice that you have every minute of your life. You can choose to look at things through a perspective of self-pity, anger, and resentment, or you can look at things through the lens of gratitude. What are you grateful for? Because I think everybody has something, at least something, that they're grateful for. Right now, let's my guest this week, grateful for Rob. Rob is in recovery. Rob, welcome to Generating Gratitude.
Morning, Joe.
Now, Rob, tell us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit give us a little bit of background about yourself and your road to recovery.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm the aquatic secretary at the YMCA here in Bay City. My journey to sobriety actually started last year, July 28th. I have a history. My family has a history of being alcoholics, and I was one of those guys who thought I was in control of it, and eventually found out I wasn't. And just found out a lot of weird things. In my recovery, I started finding out that I'm a sleepwalker under stress. When I'm under stress, so even at night when I was sleeping and sleepwalking, I would drink. I was truly powerless, under the influence of alcohol. But I did, eventually, my wife got me to go to rehab, which is out in California, at a facility called Ocean Hills Recovery. It's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I was there with a lot of people, people from Skid Row all the way up to medical professionals. In the beginning, I didn't feel like I belonged there. But eventually, I did belong there. And just finding out, it's just, that originally I started this for my family, but now it's for me. And it's just taking one step at a time, one day at a time, and just learning that, that there are multiple pathways along this journey. And what you just, said at the beginning of the show, gratitude. I mean, it's every day just trying to find a reason to be grateful. That's the short version. So.
Yeah. Now, Rob, I've been sober for 40 years, and I certainly am very grateful that you're just starting your journey into emotional sobriety, because it's a great way of life. How long did it take you from realizing that you couldn't control your drinking to actually getting help? Because I'm always fascinated with people's stories that I knew I was an alcoholic, and I knew I wasn't drinking like other people. I knew that for 3 or 4 years before I actually, moved a muscle and got help. How long did it take you? Did you always know that your drinking wasn't like other people?
No, I didn't. I mean, like I said, I was in denial. My sobriety was 32 years in the making. Just throughout life, I would have periods of time where I drank a lot and I didn't drink a lot. But in the last couple of years, just with things going on with my wife and her health and everything, I collapsed underneath that emotional burden. And, and I didn't realize I had an issue until July 19th, which was my anniversary of that occurrence yesterday. When I woke up and, there was fear in my wife's face. And I asked her what happened, and she said I happened. And sometime during the night, I got up, drank a fifth of rum, yelled at her and my son for 2.5 hours, and then took a knife and started gouging my arm out, and then went back to sleep and woke up with no memory of it.
Wow.
32 years in the making, and it took all that time and that moment to realize I was sick and I needed help. So.
It's interesting what everybody's bottom is, because my bottom was kind of like yours. It involved blackout drinking, where I drove from Lansing to Battle Creek in a blackout, and I woke up the morning and I didn't remember anything, and all I could do is lay in bed and be in terror. What if I hit somebody? What if I had to go out and check? Right. I had to go out and check my car. And for normies that don't understand blackouts, it happened, but we have no memory of it. Like yours happened, and you have the scars to prove it, and obviously your wife and your kids, but you wake up oblivious to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would go to bed. My normal routine was, I would have some drinks before going to bed, but I was completely conscious and aware I was going to bed. So I would close my eyes, and then the next day, something would happen. So in the middle of the night, I mean, because I am a sleepwalker, especially under stress, and I had more occurrences in the last couple of years because of stress. But I'm finding out now that it happened more times than just last year. So I would do just unusual things in my sleep. I would sit at the kitchen table, act like I was on a computer, and then get up and go back to bed. Just like just weird things like that.
Describe,
but it's just like
Rob,
in my sleep.
Describe the terror of waking up and not knowing what you did, because with me that absolutely scared the hell out of me.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, like I said, July 19th really it shook me, because seeing the fear in my wife's face, and then seeing that I was capable of hurting myself that badly, that woke me up, and it was weird because I had that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, moment where I knew I wasn't in control anymore. So in my sobriety, I mean, I don't only not drink, I don't do anything altering. So I'm just, I practice abstinence with that. So.
Yeah, that powerlessness.
I mean, definitely being powerless. Go ahead.
A lot of people, being powerless gets a bad rap, because people think of powerless, especially people when they first enter the program, people think powerless is weakness, but it's not really weakness. Because you know what else? I'm powerless over alcohol. But you know what else I'm powerless over? I'm powerless over gravity. I'm powerless over aging. I'm powerless over the Detroit Tigers and their bullpen that can't seem to get it together.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Rob.
I'm learning that. Yeah, but I've learned now. I mean, it's almost been a year, and I've learned the biggest thing with this powerless comes that surrender, and just understanding that there is something greater than me out there. But I'm also understanding that if I live the right way and walk the right way, things just happen naturally better for me. And just walking in this clarity has all started from that beginning of where I understood that I was powerless and I needed to surrender. Because a lot of that, I needed to surrender to the fact that I couldn't control everything in my life. And alcohol was, probably the biggest thing, that was the biggest obstacle in my life. But, in sobriety, I'm learning just to face things more clear and present. It's that initial surrendering to a higher power, or whatever you want to call it. That kind of set me right.
Yeah, surrender is another term that gets a bad rap, because surrender, that means giving up. No, surrender just when I surrender to the fact that I cannot put alcohol in my body. Because when I put alcohol in my body or any other mind-altering substance, bad stuff happens. And there are a lot of things that I surrender to. I also can't run through a brick wall. I can't jump over a car. I surrender to that. But with alcohol, it's kind of different because people think that surrender and powerless, those are all weakness words. And they really get a bad rap. Rob, we're going to take a short break and we'll discuss powerlessness and surrender a little bit more, plus the gratitude now that you live your life in. You're listening to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Welcome back to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Joe, still your host. Rob is with us again, describing his journey. And Rob, you've been sober, what, about a year?
Let's see. My exact, I think I'm 356 days.
You're there. You're almost there.
I'm almost there, yes.
Describe how sobriety and that journey when you first start out. Describe some of the things that you've learned about yourself. It's always interesting when you ask people that are new, what did you learn about yourself?
Well, I learned that I'm capable. I'm enough. Because 2 weeks after I got back from rehab, my wife and I decided to divorce. So everything I went to sobriety for, kind of fell apart underneath me. I went for my family, I went for my wife, and, the divorce happening, I lost my family, I lost my wife, and I had every reason in the book, to go back to drinking. And for whatever reason, I stuck with sobriety. It just felt like I needed something, and this sobriety was enough for me. It made me feel like, I was regaining who I was prior to all this, my active illness. It's just, and then the circle come around. And I'm finding out sobriety, it's taught me that the opposite of addiction is connection. And I'm connecting with so many more people that have been where I've been, and then there are so many people that haven't experienced what I've experienced, and I'm able to share, what my journey is. And it's just right now I'm working towards becoming a recovery coach. So I'm taking the classes, doing the time, spending my time in the community, and just trying to do the best I can to help the next person that comes through the door.
One of the most difficult things about recovery is, and you mentioned it with your family, is we go through the process and we work to get sober, and now that we're sober, it's like, okay, I'm sober. And the people that we love and the people around us need time to heal. Because I've often said, when I was drinking, I didn't have family or friends. I had hostages. And it took a long, long time to regain that trust, because I had lied before. No, this time is the last time. And everybody, yeah, right, Joe, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Are you in that process right now? Because the only way we can rebuild trust, and the only way we can rebuild, is just how we conduct ourselves every day. Because people in our lives were tired of hearing, "I'm sorry." It didn't mean anything. Sorry. Right.
Yeah. No, I am in that place right now. I haven't talked to my friends in 10 months. I unanswered phone calls, unanswered text messages, and I've just come to the realization they need space, they need time, and I put myself in their shoes, and try to understand, what my active addiction did to them, And the hardest thing for me is accepting that. But it helps me with my life because my life right now is a living amends. So I'm showing to them and showing to myself, that people can change. It's just, it is very difficult. I have many days where I just, I sit in the dark and I wonder why I screwed up or, and why it happened and all those empty promises that I made. It still hurts when I go back and, think about, the day my wife said I was sick, the day, she decided that she had had enough. But I respect it. It still hurts. I'm still working through it, but, now I'm working through it with a mental clarity and I'm being present in the moment. So I'm learning a lot more from it. I'm not being bitter. And I try to embrace everything, through this new lens of love. And just try to do the best I can, living one day at a time.
Yeah, the sobriety, one of the things about sobriety is, at least for me anyway, was the realization that, wow, I did some damage. Because when I was drinking, I didn't care. It was all, like you had mentioned, me. It's all about me. Sobriety is like coming out of a foxhole and real ho, whoa, I did that. I did that. Oh my. And I commend you for the way you're looking at it now, because people need to understand that that's hard to accept, because the guilt, nobody ever wants to hurt anybody that they love, and just dealing with that guilt is one of the critical elements to being, emotionally sober.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. And probably the other hard thing for me, and it's still even hard, is forgiving myself. But I've learned that I've got to extend the grace to myself that I extend to everybody else that I love. So just taking that one day at a time, and I'm dealing with these emotions. I've gone to therapy. I have my support groups. I go to my meetings. I have friends that are close to me and I'm able to, share freely with. And these last 10 months, I've asked for more help than I've ever had in my lifetime. So it's just learning that, that we are enough, that we do make mistakes. And it's, that every day that we're sober, every day we wake up sober to a new day is another opportunity to do something better.
Isn't it great to have the ability now to ask for help? That was one of the most freeing things for me. I can ask for help. I don't have to carry this weight by myself. I can say, hey, I need some help here.
Oh yeah, no, it's great being around, people in the community, that are there. I was the typical person before sobriety, that AA was for, quitters.
Yeah.
But this group of people, are so committed to a lifestyle, that they've shown me there's more to quitting, than quitting. It's just like, it's establishing myself in this new lifestyle and being there for other people and being there for myself. The biggest part is showing up for myself every day. And every day I show up for myself, I'm available to help somebody else. But that's where, going through everything I'm going through, it's just reestablishing, who I used to think I am, or I was, that person still exists. That person is actually better than what they were, 10 years ago. But yeah, no, this journey has definitely been a roller coaster. It's been lots of ups and downs. But I'm able to share more. I get a lot of my outlet through writing, art, and just creativity. So I'm very open about my story.
And you mentioned that too that you're also breaking the cycle, because your family had a history of alcohol. which is very typical of people in the program.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it was a big cycle. I mean, I don't know. Being a typical guy, being a typical, alcoholic, we have to learn things a lot of times our own way. But my mother, was a long time alcoholic, and she actually broke the pattern for herself. And she's sober now. And it's that, and I failed to see that lesson at that time because I didn't think it applied to me.
Yeah, it doesn't apply. It applies to everybody else but me, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, it's if I had $1 for every time that I said, you know what? Yeah, they're alcoholic, but I'm too smart. I'm too good. I know what I'm doing. I don't. That might be for them, but not for me.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that was definitely where I was at. I mean, I had a firm belief that I was in control of everything in my life, that, everything I did was because of me, and realizing that that's not true. I got to where I'm at right now with a lot of help from other people. And it's been very, very humbling admitting that.
And you bring up a good point, help with other people. We'll come back. Rob, we got to take another break, but we'll come back and talk about other people and the power of community in recovery, because I get drunk, we stay sober. It's all coming back here on Generating Gratitude on WSGW.
Now it's time for more great moments in gratitude with your host, Joe Volk.
And welcome back to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Been talking to Rob about his journey in sobriety. 355 days, almost a year, right, Rob?
Almost a year. Yeah, I just rechecked, and I'm actually at 357. So yeah, almost a year. It's been eye-opening, been very emotional, but I'm here. So.
And you said you're working to be a recovery coach. Now, one of the things that's very important in sobriety and recovery is that power of community. That, like I mentioned before we went to break, I get drunk, we stay sober. Because at the end of our addiction, there's a lot of isolation. And I can still today even practice isolation. When I practice dry drunk behavior, what I do is I tend to want to isolate. And when I was drinking, I isolated. Just leave me alone. I just want to sit in my basement with my pint of vodka and get drunk. And if you people would just get off my back, the whole world would be fine. Me with that stupid illusion of trying to control other people, places, things, or events. Rob, if you could explain the power of community, that sobriety community in your life. How did it first help you when you first entered sobriety?
Well, I mean, when I first entered sobriety, I started off in California with going to meetings, and the meetings there are so different than here in the Midwest. There was so much more energy there, mix of ages. And then I came back to the Midwest, and now in the first meetings I went to, a lot of old timers, and yeah, it was different than what I was accustomed to. But I was learning that their stories, and there's a lot of wisdom in those stories, and just hearing it from somebody else, that they went through something similar to what I went through, reassured me that I wasn't alone. and that I was capable of, continuing on this path of sobriety. Now in this community that I'm in, I found people that, match the energy that I want. And then the recovery coach community itself, so many caring people, that have been there, done that, and they're willing to, extend that hand to help somebody back out, and return to life. My journey in active addiction or active illness, I drank escape. It was my way of escaping, stress, responsibilities. And it's what I'm learning. A lot of people, when they do something in their addiction, it starts off as a protection or some sort of protective mechanism, and then it gets out of hand. When it's not doing its job anymore, it's just actually making things worse.
Right, the alcohol stops working.
Right.
In fact, it makes it worse.
Oh yeah. I mean, it just and especially me, it just is everything I was hiding, when I was conscious came out when I was drunk or sleepwalking. Because I had zero filters then, and and then all that energy, all that anger, needed an outlet, and when it came out, it wasn't being filtered, it wasn't being controlled, and it hurt so many people. But in this community, there's so much love and support in this the recovery community. There's so much help out there through different organizations, through the hospitals, through different support groups, and all it takes is just raising your voice and raising your hand, saying I need help. But there are some recovery coaches that they sort of position themselves there for you before you're ready to say help. And most people aren't aware that it's happening until it's time for the call for help. It's been an incredible journey. Go ahead.
One of the things, Rob, I feel that helps me about support groups and different support groups is you're sitting in a room with people that have all been there. You don't have to explain yourself because we've all been there. Our stories might be different, but the results are all the same.
Absolutely.
We can relate to your wife walking out. We can relate to years of alcohol abuse in your family. I call them head nodders. That when you tell your story, there's at least 3 or 4 people in the room nodding their head, going, "Yeah, been there. Yeah, done that."
Absolutely.
And it's so freeing to not having to explain yourself.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, that's probably the best part about being, well, not one of the best, it's one of the best things in recovery groups. It's just people know, exactly what you've been through. They relate. And then you have that newcomer, that their eyes open up when they realize they're not alone, and then that there are other people, that can help them through whatever they're going through. But like, in this recovery community I find around here, the opportunities to give back to the community, there's so many opportunities, just to reach out and give back. And that's where I'm plugging myself in, because there are a lot of things that I saw during my rehab and through my journey here that, I think, can make things, transitioning from addiction back to sobriety and into normal living, that weren't readily made available. And just trying to learn how I could, be that bridge, for the gap there.
Well, I'm certainly encouraged, Rob, about your participation, because I realize that for me to receive anything, me to receive the benefits of anything, I first have to give. It's that give to receive. And I have to give without expectation of anything in return. I have to give of myself. And hopefully, if I'm doing it right, I'll get the good stuff back to me. It's that karma. And it sounds like you believe in that karma as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe, you reap what you sow. If you put good things out there, good things come back to you. It's just and then also just being aware of, that there's more than one pathway, so that nobody has the one, guaranteed pathway. There are so many different pathways, in recovery and in life. Because I started off in AA, and right now, AA is still my foundation, but I also grew up Buddhist, so some of that belief and philosophy is there as well. And then now I find myself in sobriety. So I'm learning to keep my eyes open, and learning that there are more pathways than what we're taught or what we think there is. In this community,
I've often said, Rob, that sobriety is like a golf swing. Everybody's got a different swing, but if you look at professional golfers, they all have different swings, but the mechanics are still all the same, and the result
Absolutely.
is the same.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like in my current pathway, I mean, I found everything that I, lived my life with, Christian principles and, Buddhist philosophy. I found that all in one pathway. And it's helping me. But I'm also learning that, my pathway may not be the same for somebody else, but I should still be able to help that person, in whatever way they're walking. But like community, especially because my work is also community here at the Y. But it's just giving back to the community. I can't give what I don't already have, is one of the biggest things I'm learning. So a lot of this happiness that I'm finding now, I'm able to share with other people. The forgiveness I'm learning to give myself, I'm able to share with other people. It's just, so a lot of the examples I have in the community around me, especially with the old timers, it's been amazing just, getting information from them and seeing that, I'm not by myself on this journey.
Rob, we got about a minute left in this interview. I always like to end our interviews with, give me some things you're grateful for.
Well, I'm grateful for waking up to a new day. Every morning I get up, I'm sober. I have more opportunities to live with intention. And then just live my life to the best of my ability. Like I said previously, my life is a living amends, and I plan to continue living that way.
And Rob, congratulations on your journey, 357 days. Man, keep it up, one day at a time, right?
Yes, thanks.
Yep, Rob with us, describing his journey into sobriety, and I certainly am grateful that Rob agreed to tell his story, because it's important that we hear stories, especially of newer people. It's very important, because sobriety, emotional sobriety is great. It's a journey, and you got to do it with gratitude. We'll come right back with Generating Gratitude, where I am going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to challenge you folks out there to practice gratitude. And I'll explain coming up in just a bit. You're listening to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Welcome back to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. If you are just tuning in to this highly acclaimed, highly esteemed program and didn't catch Rob's story, Rob told a great story. Rob's sober 357 days. And it's important that we see people at the beginning of their journey to show you just how much work and how much pain and how much gratitude is all involved, all wrapped up into one. And I certainly am very grateful that Rob shared his story. And if you didn't hear the first part of the show, I would encourage you to go back, because you can listen to all the shows Generating Gratitude if you go to the WSGW website, click on podcasts, and you see my smiling face. click on that, and they've listed all the shows. You can find that on Spotify as well. Highly encouraged to go back, because those are some good stuff, especially if you're struggling and you need reasons to be grateful. And gratitude, obviously, is a main theme of my show. You can't be hateful and you can't be grateful. But right now, I'm going to throw down what I call the gratitude gauntlet. I would like anyway, to show you how gratitude is a great way to live. Where I got out of that 3 drinking buddies, self-pity, anger, and resentment, and learned to look at things with gratitude. Now, I'm not going to paint a picture that just because you look at things with gratitude, your life is going to be instantly better and it's going to be a Disney movie, especially with some of the crappy movies Disney has made recently. But here's how gratitude has worked in my life. During the worst situations, I'm able to look at things with the lens of gratitude. And I told you about my friend Jerry, my friend Gail, 2 close personal friends of mine that lost their lives to cancer. And I watched Jerry deteriorate, and I watched Gail get diagnosis after diagnosis that the cancer had returned. 2 horrible situations. But this is how gratitude worked in my life. I am so damn grateful today that I was able to go through their journeys with them. I was able to be present. I was able to be sober. I was able to not be selfish and think of others as opposed to thinking about myself. I had to be there for both Jerry and Gail. I couldn't take that time out to mourn. There was time for that later. But I had to be strong for them. I had to be there for them. And how did I do that? I was honored to do that. I'm so damn grateful that I was able to be there for those folks. And one of the best moments of my life, and I've told you this, was being able to hold Jerry's hand on the day that he died. I couldn't do that being polluted in alcohol. I couldn't do that if I wasn't grateful. Those are amazing experiences, looking at life with gratitude. When my father lost his battle to dementia, dementia's a terrible disease. You slowly watch the person that you love become less of a person. The lights dim and suddenly there's no one home. And the things that go with dementia, the anger, the frustration. So how did I look at that with gratitude? I was grateful again that I could be there. I could take pictures of family and show my father. And even though he didn't probably at the end remember any of those people, hell, he didn't even remember who I was. And that's tough. That's a tough one to sit there. And your father doesn't know who you are. So, Joe, how could you be grateful? Well, I was grateful because I was there. I wasn't off getting drunk. I was able to be present all the way to the bitter end. I was able to be an asset rather than an ass. And I'm grateful for that journey. It sucks. It sucks that he's not there anymore. But I'm not angry about it. I'm not full of self-pity. Oh, I don't have a dad. I'm not full of resentment that there's a disease that can rob somebody of humanity. I'll give you even another sign that gratitude's worked in my life. I remember when I got fired. At the time, it didn't really seem grateful. But you know what? Looking back at getting fired, that's what it was supposed to be. And it was actually, when I look at it, freeing. Because I didn't have to be that person anymore. I wasn't bound to be that character. I was able to do something else. To be free of that. And sure, I could be angry about it. I could be resentful about it. And I tell you what, I had my days. I'm not perfect. I'm not like walking around like I'm Jesus or Gandhi going, oh, I live in gratitude all the time. Sometimes gratitude sucks. Sometimes if you live with gratitude, you got to eat a big one. And it doesn't taste too good. But I'll take that as opposed to living with resentment. I'll take that as opposed to sitting in that comfortable, easy chair of self-pity. Self-pity is the damn easiest thing in the world. That anger. So what I'm asking with the gratitude challenges is look at your lives. Where can you find gratitude? You look at social media and you look at the toilet that is politics these days, and we're all envious of what everybody else has. It's that stupid, well, take from the rich, give to the poor. And I won't be happy until I take everything that somebody else has, because somehow they're screwing me. Get out of that social media, that political mindset. Make a gratitude list every day. List 5 things that you're grateful for. And if you start with that small step, it's amazing how much better your life will be. The crap's still going to happen, but you can look at it one of 2 ways. And I say it all the time. You can be hateful or you can be grateful. Choice is yours every minute that you take a breath in your body. There we have it, folks. Another blazing edition of Generating Gratitude. Thanks to my friends at Connoisseur Media. My friend Jonathan, who moves heaven and earth to put this show on the air every week. And you folks that download it. We're all together. Remember this, can't be hateful. You can't be grateful at the same time. We'll see you next week.